Welcome to Anecdotes for Success with Matt and Paul. Storytelling is an art form, emphasizing the value and learning that is created through personal experience. Our purpose is to share these stories and experiences with the listener. Everyone has a powerful testimony. Let's use them to level up to our best life with truth, meaning, trade-offs, and perspective.
You're back. Exciting week, Matt. We have a guest. Matt and I have been going solo a little bit because we just love to talk. And when we have a guest on, it means one less screen time. No, I'm joking. We have Colleen Souza on. Welcome, Colleen.
Hi there. Welcome. Or thank you for having me. I
Yeah.
should say. I'm sorry. It's you should share with everyone. It's very early in the morning for me, so I'm still drinking that first cup of coffee.
Yes, 3 hour time difference, and that's the life of podcasting. But it's also the great part is that we wouldn't have met if it wasn't for the internet
Absolutely.
and
Absolutely.
emails and you can get rid of those time differences just like that as long as everybody's a little willing.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
As always, we're not going to introduce you. We're going to let you get going. You can start wherever you want to start with
Sure.
your background, and then we never have a shortage of questions. So
Okay. Well, thank you for having me on today. I'm very excited to be here. I was a little background as we chatted and we're getting to know each other. I was starting to tell my story. I don't know what I want to do when I grow up, and that's part of my problem. I think is that I just think that life has so much to offer. So I've been all over the place as far as things that I've done in my life. Spent the bulk of my younger adult years being a classroom teacher. And I spent about 20 years teaching everything from fifth grade through high school. Obviously, fifth grade is fifth grade, but then when I hit the middle school level here, I'm from the Central Valley of California. We call it academic block in my district. So I taught English and history. And my kids were with me 2 hours a day, homeroom. I was the face they always saw. I was their mom as they transitioned from being kids to being those fabulous junior hires into, I sent them off in high school. I also ran peer counseling programs, which were leadership, one-on-one, where kids, mentored other students and a whole bunch of different things like that. But then my husband, who ran a real estate company for a long time, said, I need somebody to come alongside me. I think I could blow this up. And we had 2 kids starting college. So blowing up the real estate business sounded like a fabulous idea. So I jumped on board to just be his administrative assistant for a little while and write my book. And that was 15 years ago. And I ended up having a blast discovering that teaching people how to make big decisions like buying homes and investing their money was just as rewarding. And I spent a long time doing that. We've sold over $300 million of real estate and just had a blast doing all that stuff. But finally, about 2 years ago, I decided it was time for me to do what I really have always dreamed of, and that was write a book. That sort of I had a particular book in mind for a long time, and it's coming out. I think I have a copy of it here. It's coming out soon, and it's called Living by the Mantras. And it's really we can use a lot of allegories or whatever you want to call them to tell ideas. And mine really is just, it walks through the story of my life with my children, my family, my business, my classroom years. And it's 21 mantras, but they're really just, they're not standard because I'm not standard. And so like the very first one is keep your pants on. And in our household, that meant make good choices. And there's the story behind that. So whenever I'd shout, keep your pants on, it meant think about what you are doing. And then, there's 21 of those fun ones, but they're really the core piece of it is they're tied to incredibly important values I think that families need right now, that kids need right now, that businesses need right now. I've used these not just with my kids, but we have them on the wall of our office, and I use them with my agents. I've used them in the classroom, and that's things like choices, self-control, respect, positivity, hard work, et cetera, et cetera. There's 21 really core common sense values that I think are so important. So that's really what the book's all about. And that's what I'm doing right now.
Colleen, that's really cool. There's so much there that
Yeah, go ahead, break it apart now. I got to do my intro. You guys
Yeah,
go.
no, I get. I mean, to start, you're talking about you never, you don't know what you want to do when you grow up, and boy, can I relate to that. I've been told by people, my God, you've reinvented yourself so many times, and I go, yeah, I have, haven't I? Like that's neat, but I think there's so much value in that because Paul and I were talking before you even got on about just building kind of that muscle of life, that muscle of life's going to be hard. Do you have the tools in your toolkit to deal with it? And too many people do not because they've never done anything other than the same old thing day in and day out. And then
Oh
when
yeah.
life smacks them in the face, because it will, they're not prepared
Oh,
for it.
absolutely, absolutely. And I talk so much about that. I mean, it's interesting as I began to write this book, um, we have these, these different mantras and I've got to share, like my story too is I have three children and they range from the age of 32 down to the age of 20. I have we call them the big kids, our daughter and son that are 29, 32 and all grown up and living their lives. And then we have God's little sense of humor, blessing, whatever you want to call her. And that would be Gracie. And she just turned 20 and she is in her junior year down at ASU. Sorry, not U of A, to ASU. But
Oh,
we're the rival. But
that's
she's
okay.
she is an engineering major down there in Phoenix, and she, all of them. I said to him, they bugged me for years. Mom, put this. I mean, you didn't raise us in the most conventional way, so put these ideas out there for everybody else. And so it's interesting because they helped me choose the things that meant the most to them. But when I started to put them all together, I realized how many common threads, to go back to your comment. And they really, so many of them talk. I read the book myself. The audiobook will be coming out, and I was just recording it this last week. And I was thinking to myself, I didn't say the same thing, but I did say the same thing from chapter to chapter because it's about getting outside that box that we tend to put ourselves in
Mm.
and finding ourselves, without even meaning to, so confined by our experiences, our circumstances, our thinking. And then once we break out of it, there will be issues, conflicts, problems, obstacles to overcome. And so it's how do we address those obstacles when they come into our lives? So yeah, it's so true.
Paul, let me ask one more question,
No, that's
and then,
fine.
and then I'll let you ask. You mentioned the keep your pants on one, which I think I'd like to hear the story of how that came about. But before I do, you said that comes down to making good choices, right? It's about making good choices. I often speak to. In fact, I just got invited yesterday to speak to a school class in November, and I get invited quite a bit to do these kinds of things. And the thing that I harp on right from the minute I set foot in that classroom is your life will be your choices. Good choices are your life. Like
Exactly.
all these other things around, they are important, but your choices will influence all these other things. You have to take responsibility of that and make good choices. If you make good choices, you'll have a good life. It
Yes.
won't come without problems, but you'll have a good life. If you make bad choices, you'll have a worse life. Like I just think that's
Oh yeah.
so important to verbalize to people. So when you said it, you literally gave me chills. I'm like, oh my gosh, now I can't write my book. She just
Yeah,
stole
yeah.
it.
No, you could go way deeper into choices. I only do it for a few pages. Talk about choices because I don't
But
think there's enough messages out there about them. So the more we give, the better it is.
agreed, fair enough. So one, would you mind telling us why the keep your pants on part? And two, did you say that was the first one? And
That's
if
the
so,
first mantra.
if so, is that why or you just had to
Sure. No,
have
yeah, no, I would gladly tell you that. So my oldest is my son. He's 32 years old. His name's Tim, and he was just from the very start very much a firstborn. You learn these things as you have your kids. I talk about that at the very beginning in the intro of the book. By the way, every human being is an individual, and even if they're all raised by the same set of parents, they're going to go out and be their own thing. I understand that from the start, and that's going to be the same of anybody you hire, anybody you work with. Just accept individuality. But our son was a stress magnet when he was a little kid. And he would sit in the back seat in the car seat, just grab his little shorts and just get stressed if he, who knows what was going on in his very, what we learned later, ridiculously brilliant little mind. And so things just, he would see things, he would hear things. We were taking too long. God forbid he had to choose what to eat. Oh my goodness. And it was usually just goldfish crackers or cheese. It wasn't like it was anything exciting he'd default to, but those were, the choices he made. And so because he'd grab his little shorts, I'd say, keep your pants on, buddy. The choice is not that stressful, because he would do that. But if you break down that idiom, it really is about relaxing, thinking about it, just calming down and making choices. And so that just sort of became in our household, just keep your pants on and make good choices. And then, of course, it was it was a ridiculous fun reminder of it when one of their friends in high school got suspended for pantsing somebody in the locker room. And we're like, remember rule number one, it's all about choices. Keep your pants on and everything's fine. So, it was, but yes, that's number one for a reason. In our household, if you ask my kids and they're all in the room, or any one of them's there, and you say, what's rule number one? They'll all say, keep your pants on, make good choices. And then we say, what's rule number two? And it happens to be, if it's wet and not yours, don't touch it. And so that's rule number two in the house. And that was always about self-control, because I think hand in hand, choices and self-control. And then rule number three, they'll say in unison too, and that is leave it better than you found it. And that was about respect. So beyond that, they were just, I won't say willy-nilly, but they were just different things we always said. And the kids said, you have to include this one, Mom. In fact, number 21, my adult son is driving down the road knowing I'm working on a book, coming from a client meeting. And he's like, Mom, please make number 21 begin with the end in mind. I just came out of a meeting where I don't think anybody thought about what was going to happen at the conclusion of this. So it was like, he's like, that was so important. You always taught me to do that. So they came after that in that particular order. But yes, choices was the first rule of family.
I love it. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
This is awesome. I mean, I could just sit and listen to you two. Like, I'm completely content with all this. And I want to touch base on the concept of mantras in general in a second. But you said something earlier that the book's about leaving comfort zones too.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And that's right up my alley. I mean, as educator in the program I was talking to you about, and as a high school coach. One of my favorite quotes is by the Duke women's basketball coach, Kara Lawson, that says, the hard never gets easier. You just get better at handling it. And that's completely about comfort zones. And we use that all the time. And Matt and I were talking pre-podcast today, how so many people just get so comfortable with life. And it's a tricky thing, because our human brain and nature is to try to make things easy. That's why we have technology and conveniences, right?
And I go on and on about that. Yeah, definitely. And it makes us forget how to do the real stuff sometimes.
Yes. And we were talking about it, with all that convenience and lack of stepping out of comfort zones, so many people can't handle the loss or the adversity when it actually comes. And that's where the real lessons in life comes to keep pushing. So I feel like just the name of your book and what you were talking about is right up our alley. Can you talk a little more about the whole concept of mantras? I mean, I think everybody knows.
Well, yeah, I mean, the definition of and it's funny because you call it mantras, I call it mantras. I've had other people call it mantras, however you choose to produce it or pronounce it. It doesn't matter to me.
It's like economics and economics, right?
Exactly. Tomato, who cares, right? As long as we're all doing the same thing. But so forgive me as I call them something different out of habit. But mantra defined is a repetitive statement made over and over again until it becomes embedded in our behavior and our mindset. I actually, there we go. I have an AC behind me that's, I'm like, oh, it's too cold. I was at an event in our town a weekend ago, and it's called Clovis Fest. It's like an Oktoberfest kind of a deal, but there's hundreds of little tents up, vendors, and I decided what a great time to get out there and just start meeting people about my book. And I had this one person come up to me well, mantras are so mystical, and what's your purpose in all these things? I go, mantras are not mystical. There are some religious groups that live by mantras, yes, but the concept of a mantra isn't something crazy and mystical. It's just and a repeated idea over and over again until it's embedded in your thinking. You can call it a quote, you can call it a principle to live by, but basically, I think it's super important to be repetitive on the things that we want to remember, we want to make sure in our lives, and you could say choices, make good choices all the time, which is what you want to do. But I'm got a sense of humor and I like to keep things light and I like to keep things interesting. So I created quotes and phrases around them. So that's really where it comes from. But it's the idea that, well, here's another, you were talking about the whole concept of failure. Mantra number 18 is we either win or we learn. We either win or we learn. And whenever one of my kids would come to me or one of my students would come to me or even to myself or, whatever in our office, you have something fall apart and you're like, oh, I can't believe I blew that. You didn't blow it. What did you learn from it? And so it's turning failure, it's turning obstacles, it's turning challenges into something much better. And so, those kinds of phrases embed in your head so that when something goes wrong, you don't use that negative vocabulary. I just failed. You say, okay, what did I learn? How can I make that better? How can I go back and either fix that or just accept it and not do it again? Those kinds of concepts. So.
Go ahead, Matt.
Does that help you into the definition of mantras? I'm like, I don't.
Yeah, no, I love the concept and I'm going to follow up on it in a minute. Go ahead, Matt. I saw you getting ready.
Yeah, no, it does for me too. And, Paul and I started this podcast, Colleen, with what we call the 4 pillars in mind, which are truth, meaning, trade-offs, and perspective. And those 4 pillars, as you've been kind of educating us on mantras a bit, or at least me, I'm thinking, where is that the same thing? And it is in some way, and it isn't, and that's not important. I think what's important is that people have a value system of some sort, right? And things they can lean on and things that they can, I hate to admit it, but I'm 50 years old. I just turned 50 a couple months ago. And the me that's 50 is so different from the me that was, let's say, 35, okay? And the biggest difference, Colleen, at the end of the day is I have a value system now that's uncompromising in certain areas, right? There's just certain things I will not, this is how I'm going to live my life, right? I didn't have that 15 years ago. I could flutter in the wind, right? Like probably most people. And I think having these mantras or these pillars or whatever they are, they ground you in a way where they give me so much comfort because I don't have to make a choice, Colleen, in certain areas. I've already made it. This is who I am, and I don't compromise on the truth. The truth is what I'm looking for, even if it disrupts my whole day and my whole belief system at a time, right? Or it makes me go, oh my God, can you believe I've been wrong about this all these years or whatever? I will not compromise in certain areas. And that in your mantras, in terms of how to make life decisions or how to act, they do the same thing as far as I can tell. I just think people, when they have these things to lean on, they provide you so much power and so much value, and you don't have to flutter in the wind. You've already made the decision on that you're going to leave things better than how you found them, for example.
Yeah.
Like you don't have to decide whether you're going to cut a corner. You don't cut corners. You do what's right? For instance, of course. I'm just using that as an example.
A good example I put in the book is I talk about the shopping cart.
Yeah.
The freaking shopping cart. It's such a simple thing, but
oh, I love it.
Do you put it back where it belongs? Or are you super lazy and you shove it in the closest open parking spot so that the next guy has no place to park? And it's really not that it's a big ordeal. And I live in the Central Valley of California. We're a desert. It can be 112 on an afternoon here. And I'm telling you, it's not fun to walk it to the little place designated for it or back to the front door. But it's just something that I have learned to do because it's the right thing to do for not just the person who wants the parking spot, but for the kid that's got to run around for an hour and sweat it out because people stuck them in stupid places. So I know what you're talking about. And as simple as it is, it's picking what you're going to do and be in those situations. Yeah, no, totally.
No,
Completely get what
Colleen,
exactly you said it.
my second job was at a Sam's Club as a cart guy. That's what I did. I used to push those, 8 hours a day or whatever it was. And I love that example, not because I used to do that, and that's not why I do it now. It's not why I put them back now. It's who are you at the end of the day? It isn't about, well, someone else can do it, or it's no big deal, like you said, because it's not a big deal. But it is a big deal because who am I at the end of the day? Who am I? Because here it's not 112, but it's 12. There's three
Yeah,
feet of snow on the
opposite.
ground. It's the opposite, right? Where we are, right, Paul? But do I want to grab that shopping cart and walk it, 30 yards over there and 30 yards back with a wind whipping and sleet in my face? No, I don't. But do I? Every single time. Because
Yep.
that's who I am and that's what we do. And when my daughter's sitting in the car, I want her to see that's what dad does.
I
Right?
talk so much about that. It's so much about the modeling, how incredibly we don't even understand. And so I throw that out there to anyone that's listening. If you're thinking you want to make changes, it's as small as the shopping cart. I
Yeah.
swear to you, it's as small as the
Yeah.
shopping cart. And when you master the shopping cart, move on to something else. But the bottom line is you can make those simple changes. And it's yeah, no,
So
we're on the
someone
same
should do
page
a
there.
study. Someone should do a study. You just survey people and see who does the shop, who puts it away and who doesn't. Okay. And then
Yeah.
take those groups of people and start diving into to more,
Pay attention to some of their other behaviors.
right. What's your what's
Yeah.
your happiness level, or what's your I mean, you could do a million different things and try
Okay.
to dissect, if you choose to do it or if you
Maybe
choose
that's the
not to
next
do it.
book. It's the shopping cart study. I'll just break it down to that single thing. Let's talk
Oh,
about shopping carts.
I'll buy the first 100 copies and give them out. And
I
you'll-
I met a gentleman on Twitter, and he posted all the time shopping carts where they weren't supposed to be. And then he had such a huge following because everybody would say every day there's pictures of shopping carts not where they're supposed to be.
Yeah.
And it's funny. I mean, I coach, I mean, we'll just say I coach a pretty competitive program softball team. It means a lot to the people that are involved in it. And every year we come up with a slogan, but I think I'm going to start calling it a mantra. I mean, that's what we're living by for the year, right? But I was telling the players one spring about this. Usually the seniors help me come up with what we're going to do, and they're very careful because whatever we do, we put it on our shirts and we live by it every day. It's not
Yeah.
something we just have on our shirts, but because of that story and talking 2 years ago, the quote we ended up putting on was, "How you do anything is how you do everything,"
It's huge.
and and
I love
that's
that.
what the shopping cart's all about is
Oh yeah.
is those little actions, especially when no one's looking.
yeah.
What there's the one is it the Navy Admiral that says you should start by making your bed every morning
Hmm.
and doing something positive. That doesn't fly in my world. But you know what? I'm not making my bed, but I get the point that you
So the
have to
idea
wake
is
up.
that you pick the well, it's what I think I was sharing with you guys at the very beginning, or maybe I said it and forgive me if I'm repeating, but um, when I switched careers from the classroom, where let's face it, I knew when I was going to talk to adults, I knew when I was going to go to the bathroom every day, I knew every single thing about my schedule because I lived by a bell schedule, right? And then all of a sudden I was home and working in our home office where I had all the freedom in the world. And after a couple of weeks of going, this is the best, I went, this is going to go nowhere if I don't get it together. So I put up which I think is the irony. I worked with a graphic artist person who did the cover of this book, who just put a lot of the values on these post-its, but I never shared the fact that if you were to look at my made big screen that I have that is over on my desk, it is surrounded by post-it notes. I live by post-it notes, and I just thought it was hilarious that she came up with post-it notes as the cover of my book. But I have a big one that said, "Get up, dress up, show up." And it's what you were just talking about, Paul. It's that you have to start your day with a purpose. And if you start your day with a purpose, then your day is going to be a whole lot more successful. And I mean, and I do share that a lot. I talk about that as we talk about the different themes that weave through the mantras, they're about how do you become a useful, successful person. And success is going to be measured differently based on who you are, based on your background, based on what you do. Success isn't necessarily, we hear that word, and we're not always talking about financial success or any of that. There's success in every day. There's success in every activity, and success can be through something we create versus something we earn monetarily. But whatever your measure of success is, you're not going to find it without a few key elements. And those are kind of woven through. And I would like to add on to what Matt said when you were talking about, the purpose of these and people having common sense wisdom. I don't know what else to call it. These basic values, I cannot speak enough. I mean, and this is, if you're a millennial, please do not be offended by me right now, but millennials as a rule out there, I have two of you. I have a 32-year-old and a 29-year-old. They are millennials and I love them to death. But there's definitely a shift in the thinking between my generation and millennial generation. And because I'm 57, I just turned. So believe me, I'm like, holy crud, that 60 is like in the headlights for me right there. It's like, oh man. So when you talk about understanding and who you've become and who you are, there's a difference in the thinking. And I think that our world, with all the technology and all the messages and everything that comes at you, these stupid algorithms that are out there that bring you just what you spent 30 seconds too long looking at, now that's all you see. There is a foundation that doesn't exist anymore because so many messages are coming at us. So basic things like self-control, respect, positivity, hard work, focus, overcoming obstacles, living without regrets, how we treat each other. These are all the themes, the common sense themes that go with all the crazy mantras. Being yourself and authenticity, having intentionality, lifelong learning, integrity, I got to say that again. Lasting success, no fear, delayed gratification. There's a biggie.
Oh,
Delayed gratification,
I love that one.
Embracing failure, personal responsibility, generosity, and vision. Those are the principles that all these mantras go around, and it's just, they're invaluable. So you can say what you want. It's really just about providing some thoughts on some basics, and it's needed. It's just needed. That's just it's just important. So
it's funny. I wanted to bring up the concept of no regrets. You just said it, and I show my students a TED Talk by a gentleman named Tim Urban. He's like a writer and a blogger, and he says our society today is excellent procrastinators because we know when deadlines are, we can get everything done. But you don't win in life and you don't grow in life when you're always just getting things done. That's great. There's deadlines. The biggest things in life that don't bring regret is when there's something with no deadline, but you have the intentionality and the discipline to pursue it. And
exactly.
I think that's the one of the biggest things I would get out of reading a book like this. The things I want to do so I don't have regrets later in life, there's no deadline to. So it's easy to keep pushing them off unless you keep repeating something, a slogan or a phrase that's going to keep you on task all the time.
Oh yeah. For us, that one happens to be no coulda, shoulda, woulda. And it's right on the wall. No coulda, shoulda, woulda, because you don't want to live with regrets. And one of the most powerful thoughts I had around that is if you we always think, oh, there's always tomorrow. I got time. I'll get to that. That's not a priority. Or I don't even know how to deal with it. So I'm just going to leave a pin in it forever. If you ask somebody on their deathbed, what's one of the most valuable commodities in the whole wide world, they're going to tell you time. And don't stop yourself from doing what you dreamed of, because that person now has lost the ability to go out and pursue those things. And I don't want to be morbid or negative in it, but it's important to remind ourselves that our most valuable commodity is time. And if we don't get out there and do what we embrace and love, we're gonna be regretting it. And so therefore, I live by a principle of ask for forgiveness, not permission, a lot of the times. And I just get out there, and I have that on this. I have a wall behind me in this room I'm in that is a lot of the many other quotes and phrases that mean a lot to me. And being an artist at a heart, they're all pictures of my kids I put with quotes all around them. And I have one of my daughter floating on a lake, and it says, I'd rather regret the things I've done than regret the things I haven't. And so, it's about living life and getting out there and just making the most of it for sure. Definitely. Definitely.
Yeah, I I speak all the time about when I go into a class where I would say, "What's the number one most important asset we all have?" And it's always like money. You know what
Money.
I mean? All this
Yeah.
time. It's time. It's not, and it's not even close. I don't
Yeah.
know what second place is, but it doesn't even show up on the list as far as I'm concerned.
Because
You
you
know,
can earn money back, but you can never earn time back.
the
Period.
time's
When
gone.
you get that around your head, yeah, it's huge.
By the way, I love the delayed gratification. We could do a whole episode just on that topic,
Oh yeah.
and probably someone should because it's that important.
No, it
Uh,
is huge.
but what? Why did you write this book? Who were you trying to reach, and why?
Um, it's such an interesting question. Why I originally wanted to write the book, I'm very blessed. I have my husband is my best friend, and I've had a great, we just hit 35 years last year. So
Oh, congratulations.
yeah, I like to say that, well, the term is adulting now, but we raised each other. We met when we were 18 years old in our first class in college, connected, made good friends, became more, got married. And so I've had a great support system. It's very helpful to have a very good support system. But I have three amazing kids, and people would ask me all the time because I was in the classroom as an educator, and my kids had the ability to look any adult right in the eye and talk to them. And so people would say, "Oh my gosh, your kids behave. They look right in the eye." And I really honestly think I've grounded one of them once in all the years of raising them because they just understood the expectations. And so I had people always asking me, "Could you write a book and tell me what it is you did?" And so I'm like,
Mm.
look at my husband Brian and said, "Well, what do we do?" So we started to take note of what we did because it was just one of those things where it's like, I don't know, we just did. But then we realized how very intentional we had been, by the way,
Yeah.
and that's I write about that in the book. We had been very intentional, but it came together and worked. So at first I was like, well, sure, I'd like to help other parents, figure out how to, but then I realized it was way more than parenting because it's not a parenting book. To quote my very intellectual 32-year-old son, he's like, "Mom, you did a really good job of using family as an allegory." And it is because I think we can all relate to it. Whether we had a functional or dysfunctional one, we were all a part of a family at some point. We kind of, or the majority of the population was. And so we get what it's like. And then as I went into business, I began to see that a startup or a business isn't any different than a family. You get these two little entrepreneurs that bring about this little in their children, they suddenly have a team and they've got to find a way to get that team to work together to become whatever it is they want to become or to complete what they want to complete. So then I began to see how they all tied together. So ultimately, when I finally wrote the book this last couple of years and got it out there, I decided that the world just needed a really strong values-based perspective. And anybody that picked up that book, anybody that picks up the book, that's what you're going to get from it. You're going to laugh and chuckle because I'm pretty off the cuff and sarcastic. And the stories I share, my kids are like, how much did you share, Mom? But that's because when I was a teacher, my poor kids would come to me at lunch and go, because I taught at their school, "Mom, really? Really? You had to tell that story to all your students today?" I'm like, it worked. It worked with what I was doing. And they're like, "Oh my God." So, so they're used to the abject humiliation. But it just, I realized that there's so many people grasping for those core values. And when you
Yeah.
talk to folks and you start having a conversation and you do something like, "So what's your focus?" And they're like, "Focus?" Well, I mean, so when you got up today, what was your objective? When you took a look at this month, when you took a look at this year, and I found when I was training, back when I was training teachers, and now I do a lot of mentoring with our real estate. We're our own company, but EXP happens to be the big brokerage. So I do a lot of training of new realtors for EXP. And when you go through that process and you get these new little business people and you start talking to them about, some of these basics, they're like, "Hmm?" And they look at you and you're like, "Okay, did nobody ever talk to you about some of these concepts?"
Right.
And that's when you realize, oh my gosh, there's such a need to help people understand that when you see success, whatever you define it as, that person is successful because they had some seriously important core values right there as they started, and they add them on and they get better at them. And so that's really what I meant the book.
No, that's fascinating. That's what I wanted to know. So thanks for sharing that. I mean, you look at something like this, and or I do anyway, and go, okay, what's the intentionality for you, right?
Right.
And that's why I was so curious. But I'm so I'm so happy to hear that was it because I it's funny the things I get frustrated at this ripe old age now. Like I don't get frustrated on things I used to. I get frustrated when I see people not making the decisions they can to lead the best life. And I
Right.
see it everywhere. And then when I see something like your book and I go, "Oh my gosh, someone's doing something to point people in the right direction." That's why I found it so fascinating and I'm so glad to see it because I do agree. There's just this well, Paul and I were talking about it. We talk about it all the time, but we were talking about it before you even got on. You talk about success. Well, success is so many things, right? People get caught up in financial or whatever it is. It's like, fine, sure, that's one, but there's I can name 1,000 others, right? And so can you.
Exactly.
So success is all these other things, but it's people look at it as if it's a moment. It's not a moment.
No, it's a journey.
It's a journey built on values, like you said, mantras and ways to act and ways to think and goals to set. And then it's just one foot after the next. And all of a sudden you turn around, a year, 2 years, 10 years later, and you go, wow, look what I've built. Because I had these goals, I have these values, and it'll
Exactly.
shock you what you build if you have direction. You need the direction though. And in this, that it sounds like, helping provide those values and direction
Oh,
is
absolutely.
what you're doing. Now, do you just a follow up on that? Who's buying your book? Is it
Well, I got to tell you what
the,
you were one of my biggest challenges when it comes to marketing the book, because I've worked with a few different people that help market books because I'm my own publisher, which is, you can have a choice to send your manuscript to a thousand places, and then once they do, they can take it over and take it from there. But I really wanted to. I have other books in mind. I with a couple of companies that assist new authors and new companies, and when they're talking about this marketing niche, I'm like, it's really hard because you could throw it in a parenting
Mhm.
category and it talks about a family. And these are great things you could do with kids and with a family. And it would be awesome if you followed some of these principles, because I do encourage throughout the way. I'm not trying to tell you this is the way to do things. These are just concepts you have to wrap your brain around, create what's your mantra? What's your mantra? You can take choices and come up with one that works for your family. This one worked for mine. And if it's funny and you want to use it, great. But what's your mantra to talk about choices, to talk about hard work, whatever it is? But it's not just a parenting book, because then I realized how much I applied these in the classroom. When I was at that event I was speaking of last weekend, and I had my little tent popped up there, and I had a big, large version of the book cover put on canvas so that people could see it. And one of the people that came running up to the booth just looked at me and went, Colleen Souza, like my old AB teacher, Colleen Souza. And this is now a 30-year-old that I'd had when they were 12, 13. And they give me a hug, and they were looking at a sample of the book I had on the table. They're like, oh my God, I remember you used to say this all the time. And so it reminded me how much I used these same principles in the
Yeah.
classroom to shape the minds of kids. And it wasn't about the mantra, it was about the value that the mantra applied to, right? And so then I know I use them in my professional world. So when it came to who is this book for, everyone. And that's really hard to market to, by the way,
Yeah.
everyone,
Yep.
because the bottom line is, parents, pick it up. Young millennial parents, pick it up. It will help you have some good vocabulary and plans, and things you can do on a daily basis that will help your kids become part of who you have the opportunity to become. Your parents had a plan, they had some things in place a lot of the time. It could be handed to a small business, and a person could go, yep, we're going to put these on the office wall, and these are some of our standards that we want to measure ourselves by. I could train teachers with it. I mean, there's such an expense. I had beta readers, friends of mine who I love and trust, and um, a couple of them were grandparents, but they were people like former teachers that I knew would like tear it apart on editing for me. And when they got done reading it, I said, what did you think? And they're like, oh my gosh, I'm helping with my grandkids every day, or I need to remember with the time I've got left, I've got to do this, and this.
Mm.
So they got something out of it too. So that's a tough question. Yeah, that's a
And the
tough
reason
one.
I ask is because I look and go, I don't know who couldn't use this, right?
And that's how I feel like it
Yeah.
is. I feel like it's a it's an everyone
And
book.
and
But that's a really hard thing in this world.
I look at it as someone who is very thoughtful about these things. I've just become that way over my life. I'm very thoughtful about this stuff. I think about this stuff all the time for my kids, and I have a grandchild on the way, and just my life, and I employ a lot of people, and so it's very relevant to me. So I think about it all the time, and I hear some of these, listen to some of these, and go, man, I got to think more about that particular one. I need to read this. I need to dive into this more. And I'm probably not the average person when it comes to this kind of topic. And I look at it as something that I could really dive into. So, and
Yeah.
the reason I asked her, one of the reasons, Colleen, I'm like, I know as a marketer, that's a problem when it's for everyone.
It's a huge problem. It's a huge problem. And my husband has a degree in marketing, and he's like taken over and doing a lot of that as I work on all this stuff. I handed all that off to him. Thank goodness he was so excited to do it. And I'm like, good, because that's not my gift. But he's like, okay, so if it goes on Amazon in this category, and then I'm like, I don't know, just figure it out, and so yeah,
I can see it.
all I do is get on and talk with people, go out and chat with people, and try to share the fact that if you read it, it will speak to you in the way that it needs to. And I think that's the other thing too. It's not written in such a way that it's preachy, speaky. I don't know how to explain it. It's just I've had a few people say it's like sitting down and have a cup of coffee with you, and I love that approach.
Mm,
It could be depending on when you pick it up, having a good glass of red wine with me, because that's depending on which side of the day you're on. That's what you're going to get with me. But the bottom line is it's just it's a conversation, because I think you're right. And I thought this was hilarious because I know my book. I've had to read my book at least 4 or 5 times every time it went to another editor that sent it back to me for content, for correction, for all the different things. I had no idea how many times a book had to be edited. I sat here and read it this weekend to get it all out on Audible. And I wanted to take notes. I'm like, oh, that's a good idea. And I'm like, oh, wait, I wrote that idea. Duh. But I don't know how to explain it that you can, but it's one of those things where I have to be reminded. When you were saying there are pieces where you're like, oh, I need to work on that. I need to work on that.
yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of content, and I have to be reminded. I'll go, oh, I said that. Have I been doing that? Like,
Right. I
ooh, I
bet.
need to walk back in and tell my husband I'm sorry because I like totally missed that mark on something this week or whatever it is, because there's just a lot coming at us all the time. I mean, that's
Yeah.
a bottom line. And so it's that kind of a book. Yeah.
I've been taking a lot of notes. I can tell you exactly who should read it. Overachievers and go-getters should read it, because it's going to keep reinforcing that you're doing the right thing, because sometimes we fall into a trap of worrying what other people think, right? And if you have your set of mantras, who cares what other people think? People have the right to think whatever they want about you. Don't worry about it.
Yep. I talked about that a
Then,
few times very
yeah.
specifically.
And then I think if you're the type of person that looks forward to Friday and gets to Sunday scaries, if you're the type of person that's looking forward to your next Netflix show or your next stream show, or all your social media feeds following celebrities and pro sports teams, like, I think you're missing the point of life. You're living life through everybody else. You should be living life through your own mantras, right? So
Yeah,
you're right. That's why
exactly.
it's everybody,
Exactly.
because both types of people would use the book for different reasons. But
Oh yeah, no, I
it's
totally
important.
agree with you. One reinforces for sure. One of my favorite lines, and it's lessons from Barbie that come in one of the chapters about being yourself, is my oldest loved the cartoon Barbie movies, and there was this one line that she struggled with that said, what everybody else thinks of you is really none of your business. And
Yeah.
the idea that we should respect others, she wrestled with, well, it should be my business to be concerning them. I'm no, what she's saying is be yourself. Who
Yeah.
cares anybody else is thinking of you. My mom always used to say that people love success but hate successful people. And any of us that have had
It's true.
success
It's true.
understand that old adage because she's right. I'll get people so disgruntled with me that reinventing yourself, God bless them if they're watching, but some of my former teacher friends get so irritated because I left the classroom at the top of my game. I was California League of Middle Schools Teacher of the Year nominee. I was doing all these different things. I was having a great time, but I just knew it was time to jump, that I was hitting that burnout phase. So I jumped. And then my husband and I just 10x'd our business, read Grant Cardone's book, did all this stuff. And
Yeah, yeah.
we were doing crazy stuff. And then, I'd get slowly, some of them, I'm not a big social media person anymore, but they would like see me on a vacation somewhere, see me doing something that provided me a ton of freedom, and they were so angry with me. Well,
Boy,
sorry, but people want to talk about success, but you have to get over caring what they think. If you not you be you and just love that. And believe me, it's had its own life over time.
I tell my
we
students,
believe you. We believe you. We
I
know.
tell students all the time, that whole analogy of crabs trying to crawl out of a bucket, all the other crabs are pulling it back down. And
Uh-huh.
which crab are you being? I know personally, Matt and I talk all the time. There's a lot of people trying to pull you down all the time. And
Absolutely.
I don't understand it. I don't get it. And that's why this is fun with all three of us, because I feel
Oh yeah.
we're all
Well,
climbing
even
out of the bucket.
with the book, I've had so many people going, "Oh, it's so nice you're writing a book." Yep, yep. So nice you're writing a book. I'm like, oh, I'm going to be successful with my book. I want people to read my book. And they'll say, well, why do you need more success? I don't need more success. I believe in my
Right,
message. And I
right.
believe that there are so many people that need to hear this message that I'm not going to stop until they hear it, because I think it's going to change their lives, because it's changed my life. And so if that brings success, so be it. But it's about the fact that I love the opportunity to get out and share with people things that could make their day better.
See,
Just
I wouldn't
just one
I,
shopping cart at a time, man. Just one
That's
little thing
that's
at a
that's beautifully said.
time.
see, I wouldn't call it success. I'd call it your happiness, right? You you you're never going to stop. It's not about
Well,
success.
that's it.
It's about doing the next thing that makes you happy. And so many people don't understand that. I think it's fabulous. When's your book get released?
Oh, so my book is we're on a countdown here. It is October 7th, so it's October 21st. I have 14 days. You can pre-order it right now on Amazon. When you go to Amazon, if you're an audiobook person, and I know that there are a lot of people that are, I am. What I do for a living right now, selling real estate, or what I was doing until I've stepped back just a little bit, but I still do that with my husband. I'm in my car so
Yep.
much of the time, running from
Yeah.
house to house and seeing clients. And I like to listen, because it allows me to take that in. And otherwise, the stack of books, and I have them, gets really tall because I just don't have time to sit still a lot of the time. So do know that that book will be by the 21st. My fabulous producer is working really hard to get that out. But if it's not there day one, it will be. That Audible book will be available very quickly after that.
Okay, I was going to ask. I heard you mention it, and I'm the same way. I'm always on the run. Even if I'm home working, I put my I
Yep.
just can't sit. Just I
Yeah,
love to.
that's me.
It's not that I don't love to. I'd love to sit. I don't have the opportunity to sit far
Exactly.
too often.
Exactly.
So, well, that's good to know. That's good to know. So I will personally be looking for it. I can promise you that.
So,
Well, and I'll tell you, I want to do a podcast basically because I want to be able to talk it through. So anybody that came to my podcast will probably see these two guys. They'll probably pull them back in and say, "Hey, join me now." But I love the idea of being able to share that. So I'm not killing myself trying to get it out before the book launches, just because life is what it is.
Yeah.
But in the next month, that podcast will launch, and it'll be the same idea. It's just talking about those mantras, breaking them down, having people who are experts in some of those areas when it comes to things like, positivity and motivation, or I've got some great people I found in doing all of this that have overcome ridiculous obstacles, and they'd be such a good voice to listen to when we talk about, I can't yet. That's that mantra. My kids were allowed to say they couldn't, as long as they said yes. because they
I
have to
love
live in
it.
the yet. They have to they always believe that there's, a possibility. So, that kind of stuff. So I'm looking forward to doing that too.
I like that.
Great.
I can't yet.
Great.
I always tell people the best time to start was yesterday. So I don't understand why you say I can't yet, right? What's stopping you? Well, this is fan.
Well, I always had the word yet over the bathroom door.
Well, this is fantastic. As they say in the corporate world, once you get
So,
rolling with the podcast and after the book's released, let's circle back.
I know we're on a time limit here, so we'll
Sure.
thank you so much. It was great. People
I
can
would
get
love to come back and chat with you and tell you how things are
yeah.
going.
In fact, I think with your podcast, our audience will definitely want to know where that is because we have the same types of thoughts and values and such and the
Sure.
messaging. So
Well, yeah,
definitely want
just
to
to
know
do
more
that
about
plug,
that.
if just to see what it's spelled like, livingbythemantras.com
Okay.
is my website. And on that
Okay.
website, we have, oh yeah, it's fully ready to go. On that website, there's a link for the podcast. So when it is up and running, right now it says coming soon.
Okay.
But it will say live when it's there. So if you go to livingbythemantras.com, you'll get all the information on the book, all the information on
Great.
what we're doing, and the podcast when it's up and rolling, you'll be able to jump on board.
Great. Thanks again. Appreciate it very much. And
You
we'll
guys.
stay in touch and when you have your podcast going, can't wait to hear about it and
Absolutely.
wish you
I thank you
continued
guys so much
success.
for having me on today because it just gets me excited that I'm doing the right thing when I talk to other people that file in with me and say,
Yeah.
yes, I agree.
You are doing the
Thank
right
you.
thing.
Thank you
You
so
are.
much.
There's no
Thank you.
question
All right,
about
you
it.
guys have a great one.
All
Thank you,
right.
everybody.
Thank
You
you.
too.
All right,
Bye-bye.
bye-bye.